Cynthia, good morning. How are you today? Welcome in. I'm still getting set up here. Devante, good morning. Welcome in. How are you today? I'm trying desperately to get... Please work. Oh my goodness. I'm trying desperately to get my stories posted to Instagram, but my phone has 3% battery. Oh, can I do it? Oh god. Snail, welcome in. How are you? How are you? Good. I'm good. Glad to hear you're doing well. I just got home from watching my sister's dog in her house. Um, I think, how long was I there? Since Wednesday of last week. So I did some of my work week from her house, which I don't mind. While watching her dog and looking after her garden while she's out of town. It's not unpleasant, but her dog does keep me up. And if I move too much, which I tend to toss and turn when I sleep, um, but as soon as I move, it doesn't matter if it's 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning. As soon as I move, he's like, "Oh, okay, it's time to get up," and he starts harassing me. But that's all right. So I didn't sleep very well, but I'm sure now that I'm home and in my own bed again, I will sleep much better. So, all right. And yes, I am going to go charge my phone, but my charger's across the room, so I couldn't do it from my desk. I believe both are posted. Hopefully they worked, because I'm not doing it again. Let's see here. Where's my cable? There you are. Right. I probably have to go, but I will be back. No need to apologize. I'm glad you could stop by, and hopefully you can come back again. Hello, Babel. Welcome in. No, Theo is a sweetie. He's so cute, and he's got that little snaggletooth. But yeah, he as soon as I move, he's like, "Oh, okay, time to start the day." Which for him, starting the day is just napping in a slightly different place in the house, so it's no big deal for him. Okay, let's see here. Let me swap to my. You can see the little base sketch that I did in the corner of him. Um, I want to do something a little bit more detailed this time, but we'll see. We'll see what I'm able to do. I'm not trying to be perfect, I just want to do some sketching with him today. Let's see, did I put on blue sky? Yes, I did. I'm still torn on his weapon, because technically he can just summon whatever kind of weapon he wants. And originally I was going to go with a sword and shield, because that's very classic knight vibes. Um, but I couldn't really resist giving him a whip. He loves using a whip, so I couldn't really resist. I'm sure if he wanted to, he could summon a sword and shield. But for now. is the base that I did, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep that. I don't really want, these are like little pelts, or pelts, there's multiple pelts. But he has these about around his shoulders, and I don't necessarily want it to come in front of the armor, because I want to be able to show that. It's very important business for him to nap where the humans are. It's true. It's what I would normally do when I'm at my sister's house is I'll just set up my work laptop at her dining room table and I'll do my kind of work day there. And then once I'm done with that, I'll usually go sit on the couch. And every single time I go sit on the couch, he gets very, very excited because once I sit down and usually I'll like put my feet up on the couch, he'll come and he'll lay down on my legs. So he gets very excited. It's a highlight of his day to be able to do that. Even though it's his little bones hurt because they jab right into my ankle and everything, but it's fine. We suffer for those we love, and in that case, that means it's a little dog who doesn't realize he's actually kind of heavy. All right, let's see. So what I'm thinking for this is maybe I can just flip it basically. And kind of have it coming off to this side, so that way you can still see how long it is. I'm gonna need to design, well, I say design, draw. I know how the design looks in my head, I just haven't drawn it for other people to see. I need to draw the creatures, there's multiple. But I need to draw the, oh whoops, you can't see that. Let's make it a different color. I need to draw the creature that has this pelt that he's skinning. Hell yes, you went with the whip. I couldn't resist. Especially, well, you know what, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything because it's gonna be considered spoilers if I do, kind of. So I'm not gonna say anything, but let's just say that especially because of the manner in which he uses his magic, his whip would just be a very effective weapon. Let's just say that we'll just leave it at that. What I'm hoping to do, not that you can really tell from the sketch, but the pelts are not from real animal. Well, they are from real animals, quote unquote, but they're not from like mundane animals. They're from magical animals. So the pelts have a very specific look to them that I'm going to try to replicate, but we'll see if I succeed or not. That's going to be a last part, like last stage in rendering thing, but it's fun to think about because I want this one, this little bit here that's longer. This is part of the tail. It's the little booty that he's skinned. Because they have really, really long tails. And I'm thinking, because of the angle of his arm, I'm gonna have this kind of staying beneath this pauldron, because this pauldron kind of is, it's relatively large, so it would go underneath it. The watery smoke is coming out of him, it's true. What I'm hoping to do eventually is, again, kind of in a later stage of rendering. Because one of the difficult things about him is that he's wearing so much black. I gave him a little bit of extra color, like with the red and the white, but one of the things that I didn't do, you'll notice, is I didn't really give him any gold. He doesn't have any gold on him. And I'm not saying that I am opposed to giving him gold. I think anyone who's followed my work long enough knows that I love putting gold on things. But one of the things that's going to be a challenge is because he's got so much black and he wears so much black, he's supposed to have basically like, okay, hold on, I have to explain this. So, let me see, I'll bring this down a little bit. So he's got a little bit of red in some of the fabric that he's wearing, so this whole kind of part right here, like all this fabric, that's all red. It's a very bad sketch, but you get the idea. And then I didn't do it in this sketch over here, but these are also red, and they've got like little black bits of jewelry kind of on the bottom. And then inside, and again, you can't really tell because of how rough this sketch is, but for example, in here, kind of like in between the armor, obviously he's got chainmail on, which is what you wear underneath the plate armor. So he's got chainmail in here that's visible. He might have some here, just depending on what kind of armor design I go for. But basically anywhere that isn't covered by like solid plate, like his breastplate, like right here, for example, this is where his thigh armor ends. So in here, this is all chainmail that he's wearing in here. And then he's also wearing it up here. And basically, I have to figure out how, in terms of lighting, I'm gonna make this work because he's got like goop dripping down from all this stuff, right? So all that is gonna be dripping down, and it's gonna be from both like his neck. That's kind of one of the main places, and then his hands. So like for example, it'd be dripping down from underneath the armor at his wrists, and it would come down, and it's probably forming into the whip in this case. And same with this little, he's gonna have like a little, I don't know, he's gonna have like a little guy, not a little guy, it's not a person, I'm kidding, but like a little blob or something. So anyways, that's a very rough example of what I plan to do. I don't know if I'm gonna add any gold to him. I feel like I really like him to just be all black and not, and like yeah, I have the red and the white on him, but I kind of like the idea of him not having any gold because Angelique does have a fair bit of gold in her armor, and I kind of like the difference between the two of them. But we'll see. That's a fairly easy change if I decide that I want to make it later. Like a little smoke minion. If I one of these days I'm just need to like animate like a little guy going back and forth. Anyways, but yeah, so like all of his weapons and I don't know, tools, I guess. Like if he wanted to summon like a lockpick, I guess he could do that. I mean, he could also just kick down the door. He's strong enough to do that. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, like his weapons and his tools, he summons them rather than carrying around physical objects. The armor itself, you could argue that the armor itself is summoned, but I don't know, maybe that's spoiler material. Okay, so right, okay, I need to decide. Is the pelt gonna be under that other pauldron or not? I'm not entirely sure yet. Probably will. His design is complex. I'm pretty happy with this design. He's a little bit of a departure from what I normally do. By that I mostly mean I usually put gold on everything. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of fun to do something that's a little bit more focused and limited. I'm having fun with him. Okay, and then I'm gonna do. I guess this would go behind him. I think. Because he has multiple pelts, so there's this, for lack of a better term, there's kind of this main one that you see over his shoulders, but he's technically got like a couple of them stitched together, so you'd see a little bit more of them. Kind of on the back. Now, you really won't see much because of that little bit of his armor over there. That's okay. Yeah, that probably works. His armor isn't supposed to be symmetrical, which is nice. It means I don't have to work as hard. I mean, it is symmetrical, like on his legs and stuff, but like his pauldrons here are not symmetrical, so I don't really need to worry too much about making them match. Because this one is like the bigger of the two, because it's got all the fabric that kind of comes off of it. And then this one's smaller, but it's a little bit more pointy on this side. His gloves should be relatively symmetrical, though. Or his gauntlets, excuse me. And you can't really see from the sketch. I can just add it in somewhere. But I'll need to go in here and I'm gonna have to figure out exactly kind of how I want them to look, but he's wearing gauntlets and the gauntlets have claws on them. So he gives 10 out of 10 very good back scratches. But that's about the only redeeming quality he has going for him right now. I'll have to sort out the design later, though. Rotting Beach, welcome in. How are you today? I'm upset by the belt because I know where they came from. Looks wonderful, feels worse. Maybe I'll design again. I say design. I know what they look like, but maybe I'll draw one of the little creatures, just so everybody can be sad about. All right. Okay, so I need to well, you don't really see his claws because of how he's got his hand, but basically he's got like your typical segmented armor kind of like on his hand, but it's also got like little specky boys kind of like on each of the knuckles. I'll have to do a better illustration of that. But basically, it's not, well, I guess you could call it barbed, kind of. Where basically, if like he lodged his fist into like your face, it would hurt as he pulled his fist back because there would be little scratchy bits. So don't get punched. Life pro tips with Dia. Sunday morning. Alright. Okay, so now I have to... I don't know if you're gonna really see that little specky bit on like the outside of his arm, because that would basically be over here. Yeah, you won't really see it, but I can just kind of allude to the fact that it's there. It's just a sketch. I can do whatever I want. I know where to find you. You'll never take me alive. Alright, I wonder... I made this very difficult on myself by just sketching it all in one layer, so I have to figure out kind of where I'm gonna put the little tunic bits. I guess the one that's on. The one that goes over his booty go on the back. Just like this. Hello, Ver, welcome in. Claws, nice. We love claws, we do. We love to see them. Oh, Ver, I was telling you about the... I'm not sure who... I'm sure people have heard me whining about it in bits and pieces, but oh man, I've been going on an adventure when it comes to beta readers recently. I had this one person asked to beta read. Oh, whoops, this is the one behind. Hold on. I had this one person asked to beta read, and to cut a long story short, to just kind of jump to the end, that person will no longer be beta reading for me. But oh my goodness, it was just such a... it was such an experience. And I want to be nice because this person, if you're not familiar with beta reading, there's a couple of ways that people can go about it. You can have beta readers who are just readers, and they're there to give feedback, and they're there to do like the preliminary read and kind of help you point out like story inconsistencies if there are any, or just give like a reader reaction, etc., etc. But what's very common in writing groups is that you will have other authors who say, hey, I have a manuscript that's ready for a beta read. Would you like to swap manuscripts? And we can both read and give beta feedback on each other's manuscripts. So I did that a fair bit. I've been doing that off and on for a couple of months. I did it with IMMOLATION's manuscript as well. And it's just kind of a good way to well, it's supposed to be a good way to network with people. Oh, you're so close to 3K. I know, isn't it crazy? Close to 3K here on YouTube. I can't believe it. It makes me feel bad that I haven't done more videos, but hopefully more soon. I know I've been saying that for a long time. Anyways, but yeah, so anyways, in this case with this particular beta reader, they were they're a writer. I don't think they're an author in that I don't think they've published anything. They haven't published anything. Okay. So they're a writer. They haven't published anything yet. So they're working on their first manuscript. And I said, okay, cool. I'm still relatively a beginner myself, but I do have one published book kind of under my belt. I said, so we're probably, a pretty good match in terms of our experience level. And she said, great, okay, let's go ahead and swap the first 5 chapters of our manuscripts, and we can each read them, and we'll come back, with comments and feedback and so on. I said, sure, sounds good. And it was all downhill from there. Oh my God, I don't want to be rude to this person who was a beginner writer. There's nothing wrong with being a beginner. We all start somewhere. I still consider myself a beginner. But the story it's twofold. Let's just say that it's twofold. Because it started off with she read my first 5 chapters of The Secret Project, which is what this fellow is from. This is Black Knight, or as I've been jokingly calling him to some of my friends, Black Knight-o-san. That's not what his name is. Don't call him that. Anyways, so this is the Black Knight. He's the titular character in Black Knight Shining, which is the secret project that I'm working on. Hold on, did I go? I didn't. I left blank spots. Okay. And I sent this particular beta reader the first 5 chapters, which is my pretty standard practice for when doing beta reading and manuscript swapping. If you send the entire manuscript, people can sometimes get overwhelmed. So kind of as I was working on Immolation back in the day, I decided I'm going to break it down into kind of like bite-sized pieces that people can go through, and then if they want the whole manuscript later to do like a proper read-through over a weekend or whatever, then we can give it them that later. But for now, I stick to 5 chapter, just bite-sized pieces. I think it's a good, manageable level of reading. So I sent her the first 5 chapters, and I think she either sent me, don't call it that, no, I forbid it. I think she sent me either the first 5 chapters or a similar word. No, it wasn't a similar word count, and this was one of the things that bothered me. I sent her the first 5 chapters of my work in progress, my WIP, which was about 10,000 words, give or take. I want to say it was like maybe like 10,700, not entirely sure, but about that. And then she sent me her, and again, I don't remember if this was the first 5 chapters. I think she had a prologue, so she did have a prologue, so it might have been a prologue and 5 chapters, whatever the case was. But it was like 17,000 words. I'm like, okay, well, right off the bat, this isn't the most equal swap, but that's all right. I'm a fast reader. I'm a really strong reader, so I'm not worried about it. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I was very naive, but I'm getting ahead of myself because first we have to talk about she read mine first. So I got her comments before I had even started her. I got her comments from her. Oh my gosh, I'm using the word her too much. I received her comments before I read her work, is what I'm trying to say. Which is not a big deal, which you can read and do beta reading. If you're doing a manuscript swap, you can do it in whatever order. It really doesn't matter. I'm trying to find my layer. Hold on. It's this one. Oh, I put everything on like 5 different layers as usual. Of course I did. So anyways, so if you are not familiar, first of all, with the Black Knight whip, which is what I'm working on. Does this have anything? Okay. So if you're not familiar, it is what and I say this fully admitting that I am not a romance author, right? So this is my first attempt, first foray into that genre. So I'm a complete newbie here, and I'm definitely going to not know all the conventions of the genre, which is fine, because that's just the way it is sometimes. Hold on, I want to try and put this under his belt if I can. Where's your belt? Cyril, where did I put your belt? That's one of your belts. Where's your other belt? There it is. Okay. Actually, this should go under his breastplate too. There we go. Okay. So, anyways, I will get to the meat of this story. Don't worry. I am a beginner, I would call myself, when it comes to writing a romance manuscript, and I'm fully content to admit that, and I know that I have a lot to learn, and yada yada yada, right? Well, it's still a romance novel, but also it's what I would probably call, I guess it's a romantasy. I don't think I want to say that it's a romance novel because of how much plot there is in it. Romance novels tend to be really, really focused on just the relationship, and there's, there might be a little bit of an external plot happening, but it's mostly about the relationship and how that relationship changes. Versus something like a romantasy or a dark fantasy with a romantic subplot, you're going to have a moving external plot and so on. And so I would probably call it a romantasy, maybe. I'm not sure. I would rely on someone who reads more in those genres to tell me which it is. But the point being is, it's not a pure romance novel. I'm doing a little bit of romance tropes, is that the word? I'm including some of the romance tropes, but it's not what I would strictly call a romance. It's more of a romantasy. However, this beta reader kind of, I don't want to be rude or disrespectful to this person because they ultimately did take the time out of their day to read my work and give me their thoughts. But the only thing I can think to say is that they didn't read the label on the box, basically, is the best way I can think to describe it. So it's what I would call either a dark romantasy or a dark romance, whatever you want to call it. Again, I'm new to these genres, so I'm not an expert. However, she missed one of the big labels, for lack of a better word. Is how do I'm trying to say this without sounding like a dick. She didn't read the label on the box that said it's an enemies to lovers story. Either that or she didn't understand what I meant. Because and you can tell this a little bit from reading just the blurb on my website. When the two main characters, which in this case is Angelique and Ephraim, when they meet each other, they don't like each other. They really, really do not like each other. They full on hate each other's guts. Because it's an enemies to lovers arc. And again, the section that I sent her was the first 5 chapters. So you're barely getting to know the characters. You're mostly getting a little bit of the plot setup and so on and so forth. Nix, welcome in. It's good to see you. I'm glad you could make it. YouTube doesn't notify me. YouTube is so hit or miss. Sometimes I get notifications for channels, and then sometimes I go 3 months without seeing a single notification. It's just crazy. But yes, I sent her the first 5 or so, approximate, chapters that include mostly world setup and a little bit of introducing the characters to each other, so you can see just how much they don't like each other, because that's the whole point, because it's an enemies to lovers arc. And beyond that, it is also a story that explores a lot about Angelique, who she is, and her abusing a position of power over Ephraim, who's the man who ends up in her life having to deal with her shenanigans. And this person, this beta reader, again, I think missed that memo somewhere, because she really did not like Angelique. She was like, she's unlikable, she's petulant, I hate her. Just like, that's the point. You're supposed to be annoyed by how she's acting at the start of the book, because she's supposed to be a big brat. That's on the box. And then she went on to say that, and this one tickled me, because I follow a lot of writers on Instagram. I say a lot. I follow like 20 people on Instagram at most, but you get the idea. Because I follow a couple of different authors that I've been in writing groups with and so on, so even if I'm not like actively reading their work or their genre, I will still kind of have them on my feed, and every now and then I'll see posts from them. And this beta reader said something along the lines of, and I'll have to, I don't know verbatim what she said, so I'm having to summarize here. But again, first 5 chapters, you're not seeing anything romantic between these characters at all. There isn't supposed to be anything romantic. They hate each other right now. And this beta reader said something like, they have no chemistry, there's no romance here at all. And she said something along the lines of, she's like, I don't know a single man who would be interested in a girl who acts like this. And after reading that comment, I swear that the next like thing that I did was like go open Instagram, and the first thing I saw was some excerpt from a dark romance where the girl is like threatening to shoot the love interest and kill him. And I'm like, how are you going to tell me that that's normal? How are you going to tell me that that's totally fine and accepted in terms of a romance novel? Goodness gracious. Anyways, it was a lot of comments like that. She had a lot of choice words about how she really didn't like Angelique because Angelique, what was the term that she used? She used a term that was so pointed that when I told one of my friends, who I don't think is here in stream, I don't think she's here today, but I told one of my friends what the phrase that she used was, and now my friend's using it as a meme. Because what she said was, and again, I'm going to have to summarize here. She said something along the lines of Angelique being this bratty bitch, basically, for lack of a better word. She's like, this is just such a tired direction, and so many books are doing this, and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, this is really unoriginal and bad, and your characters are dull, and there's no chemistry, and there's no romance. And I'm like, did you... It's fine to say, first of all, it is fine to say, this isn't the book for me, it's not really my vibe, but thank you for letting me read, and then just leave. And then just leave. It's not a big deal. I'm never going to be offended by someone who just says, sorry, this book, it doesn't matter what book it is, any of my work. I'm never going to be offended if someone says, nah, it's not really for me, but thanks anyways. I'm like, cool, have a nice day. No big deal. But she apparently just wasn't content doing that. She just had to talk like about how it just she hated it so much. She left me like paragraphs and paragraphs about how much she hated it, which is similar to what I went through with Immolation, ironically. But yeah, she was just going on and on about how she didn't, and it was the fact that she didn't like a lot of like the base ingredients, for lack of a better word. She didn't like the ingredients I was cooking with, is what I'm saying. And I'm like, then you should have read the ingredients list before you took on the beta read. Because I sent her this, like, I sent her the link to my website that shows the blurb of the book. And I sent her in my document, which I do this with all my beta reading. I include like a list of like tropes and trigger warnings and things that are gonna be in the book, so people have like a general idea of what to expect. Like for Immolation, I had like this work deals with like a fake religion and how they, people are thinking religious thoughts and so on. So if you're really sensitive towards religion, it's probably not a good book for you. And I still got people who were like, I don't know, it's just really heavy on the religion. I'm like, it's about a church. Of course it's going to be heavy on the religion. He's literally a priest. But stuff like that, right? Like she just wasn't. she she was rude. Honestly, I agree. I do believe that she was rude. I wonder I wonder if I could just. I still have the document. I could just find it and open it up and read some of what she said. Should I do that? Should I just go ahead and open up the document and read from it? I won't read all of it, but I'll read like a couple of her comments because they were wild. Just absolutely. And don't worry, we're only partway through this story because wait until you hear about when I read her work. Because again, at this point, she's only read mine and I have not read hers, and I'm just seeing all of her comments come through. I don't have any context for like what she's like as a writer or anything like that. Because boy howdy, does the story get crazier once I go in and look at her manuscript. Okay, let me see. I wonder if I can find. Oh, looks like my Tumblr thing never posted. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, anyways, I posted it now. That's gonna be in my author drive. Hold on. Crazy. Feeling secondhand embarrassment. It was rough. It was rough. And the worst part was she did most of this kind of like 11:30 my time, give or take, in the evening. So I was like winding down for bed, brushing my teeth, washing my face, getting ready, crawling into bed, getting all cozy, and then my email just starts exploding with like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, I hate this, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, geez. I'm like, just learn to say you don't like something. It's not a big deal. Anyways, let me see if I can find. There it is. She left a total of 62 comments on 5 chapters. And none of those were grammatical suggestions, which you can do when you're leaving comments, whether you're doing comments through like Google Docs or if you're doing it on a Word document. You can leave a comment either in the form of adding or removing punctuation or like rewriting sentences, etc., or you can like actually leave a comment. She just left comments. She didn't edit anything. Let's see. Yeah, one of the things that she said is that, quote unquote, originally I liked Angelique because she came across as a noble knight. And I'm like, so you like that character archetype. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is about proving that she's not a noble knight at all. She's really just a spoiled brat. That's kind of what the whole book is about. So they're like, so I didn't like pivoting to her just, being a brat. And I'm like, well, that's the point of the book. So if that's not an archetype you like, that's okay. People just don't know how to behave anymore, or don't learn how to behave anymore. Yeah. This person was my age, which take from that what you will. And she said, let's see, what else did she say? She told me I shouldn't be writing romance. And then, ironically, she also said, um, she's like, I don't think you should be writing romance. Instead of writing romance, try focusing on the other things pushing the story along because your world building is really interesting. I'm more interested in your world than I am the romance between the characters because there's no chemistry. I prefer slow burns. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what part of the enemies to lovers did you miss? They're enemies right now. There isn't supposed to be romance. If you're looking for romance in there, you're not gonna find it. Anyways, it was just, oh my gosh. That was, and by the way, the part that I read you, that is from one paragraph out of one, two, three, four, five, six paragraphs in a single comment. Remember, she left 62 comments, and that one alone, that single comment, had 6 paragraphs in it. So I'm like, girl. And again, she makes a couple of different comments kind of throughout her critique, for lack of a better word, about how she doesn't like Angelique's archetype of like her basically being like a bratty, bitch, all of that. She doesn't like that. And I'm like, it's okay to just say that you don't like that particular archetype. But she basically said, and I'm not going to find it and read it verbatim, but she's like, oh, well, it's a tired direction, and so many books are doing this, and I'm really sick of it. And I'm like, maybe you should stop reading books that you don't like. Crazy theory, but just stop reading if you don't like it. There are tons of books out there that do have female characters who are very honorable knights, and it's all about them being honorable and not being spoiled little brats like Angelique is. Angelique is not really a spoiled brat. She's just insecure. Anyways, we'll get to that. But that is only part one of the story. Because after that whole fiasco, I still had to read hers. And honestly, I shouldn't have bothered. I should not have read hers or commented on it. I felt obligated because she had read mine that I needed to go through and I needed to return the favor, right? Like, when you're doing a manuscript swap, you don't want to be the person who doesn't hold up their end of the bargain. Or at least I don't. To me, that's a big deal. So I'm like, all right, I know that she very clearly does not like my work, but fine, I'll hold up my end of the bargain and I'll go read hers. Again, it was about 17,000 words, which is about 7,000 words more than my excerpt was. But initially, I thought, I'm like, okay, not a big deal. I know I'm a fast reader, and I know how long it takes me to read my approximately 10,000 words. I had been doing a couple of other beta reads at this point at the same time, and I kind of knew how long it was taking me to get through those. So I was like, no big deal. It might take a little bit longer, but, I can knock this out in an afternoon. Not the end of the world. Oh my God. It was, I don't want to say it's bad because that's not fair. That's not fair to them. But I am a very strong reader. I read very fast, and it took me hours to get through 17,000 words. Hours. It took me hours. That never happens. And the reason it took me hours is because it was, and again, as mentioned previously, she is a beginner. So she hasn't published any work yet. She probably hasn't gotten to the point where she's having like an editor go through her work. Like I had an editor go through IMMOLATION. She probably hasn't gotten to that stage yet. And there are a couple of things that, if you've been writing for a bit, which I have, again, I would still consider myself a beginner, but I've been writing for a while now, writing for a fair bit. There are certain things that you will start to notice that beginner writers do. And if you've read IMMOLATION, you know I am a pretty wordy author. I am not particularly... Okay. my prose and immolation specifically, because I am writing in a different style for Black Knight Shining. That's written in a different style. But for immolation, my prose is relatively dense. It's not particularly approachable. It does take a fair bit of effort to read. Reading in general takes effort, but mine takes a little bit more, I would say, if you're putting it on a spectrum. So I like dense prose, generally speaking. I like that. This was like, my teeth hurt. It was so dense. It was painfully wordy. Every single thing was described in minute detail. There were too many dialogue tags. That's a beginner thing that you'll notice, is people using too many quote-unquote like unique dialogue tags. So you'll see this with beginner writers a lot, where instead of just saying "he said" as their dialogue tag, they'll say, I don't know, "he munched on a strawberry and tipped his hat and thought about sunrise in Alaska," or whatever, right? Like, they'll use these really, really long dialogue tags because they're trying to stuff characterization or whatever they're trying to do. That's a very common new writer thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody starts writing somewhere. But it's something that I noticed because she was new, or she was a new writer. And it was like that for every single bit of dialogue. And in between that was just paragraphs and paragraphs of exposition, but it was literally like this one girl's childhood. Like, listen, I get that exposition is not popular. Right? Like, it can be a drag to read, don't get me wrong. But I would much rather listen or read exposition of, like, a fantasy kingdom, or a village, or a ritual, or whatever, right? Like, something. I would much rather read that than what I had to read, which was long, drawn-out conversations between a family eating breakfast. And it was down to, like, the tartness of each individual strawberry that the girl, the female lead character, was eating, was described. And all of that was just to, like, explain to the reader that, oh, by the way, she has, like, magic powers or something. And I'm like, I did not need to sit through an entire family breakfast of bickering parents and annoying siblings and overly tart strawberries to figure that out. It was just 17,000 words of that. And it was really, really hard to get through. I did it, though, because it's important to me that I hold up my end of the bargain, whether I suffer or not. But yeah, all that to say, that was one of my adventures with beta reading. So now I have 2 beta readers. I had 3, but now I'm down to 2 again. And yeah, and I feel like it was an experience. It just makes me curious for, well, first of all, it makes me curious for how the reaction to Black Knight Shining is going to be from people that aren't hopefully reading books that they hate, because I don't know why she would pick up the manuscript and to read it if she clearly didn't like the contents of it. Anyways, but it also makes me really curious how beta reading for Immolation Volume 2 is going to go, because, wow. But anyways, that was my recent beta reading adventure. Oh, and by the way, her male character, sorry, but he kind of sucked. I hate to say it. She totally, like, ripped Ephraim to shreds. She was like, he's dull and he's boring and he's stupid and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, damn, don't talk about my son that way. But yeah, again, I don't want to be mean. I'm not trying to be a dick. But her male character wasn't very good. Okay, wait, I need to do his other little bits here. I'm glad the rest of the beta readers are very nice. I am too. I'm very, very pleased. It makes a big difference to the writing process to have people who are enthusiastic about reading it. Okay, let's see, so I need to add. You guys also have little crowns in my view of the chat. Do you guys see little crowns on yourselves too? I'm wondering if that's another new little thing that YouTube rolled out. Because they rolled out the, what is it? Community, I think is what it's called. But as far as I can tell, the community is really only visible on the app, which isn't great because I almost never use the app for YouTube. But yeah. Why did my music stop? There we go. You see them too? It's cute. I mean, I don't know what it's for. Is it just for like top commenter, top chatter, maybe? Because YouTube doesn't have things like, at least if it does, I don't have access to them. It doesn't have something like Twitch where you have like a top subscriber or anything like that. They're cute. I mean, I'm glad to see YouTube adding more features for streaming because I enjoyed streaming on Twitch back when I did it, but Twitch is very video game focused and I don't game very much these days anymore. So it'd be nice to do more art related things here, and if they kind of give me more options to do that here on YouTube, that'd be great. Let's see here. You see them too? She doesn't know the tales of Dastardly Fellow. What a shame, more for us. Listen, it's her loss. But generally speaking, if my work isn't to someone's taste, I'm not gonna be offended if you just say, sorry, it's not for me. I mean, could I have said that to her about her manuscript, which clearly was very much not for me? Yes. But also I was kind of feeling a little petty, so I was like, alright, well if you rip my manuscript to shreds, I'm gonna rip yours to shreds too. Politely. Nicely, probably. I don't know. Was I nice? Babel, you saw some of my comments. Was I nice? Was I nice to her? Because I'm not sure. I'm a pretty bad judge. Top fans, so probably who've interacted most. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I wonder if it's taking data from like the videos themselves, like whether people watch or comment or anything. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I'm happy about some of the changes in terms of giving more options to interact rather than just it being limited to like comments on the videos themselves. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yes, you were honestly nice. I mean, I'll take it. Because I sure was honest. I I did try to give her actionable things, right? So I didn't just say this is bad or, so on and so forth. But for example, I tried to give her gentle nudges. However gentle they were, I'm not sure. But I tried to give her gentle nudges in the direction of, for example, she had several scenes with her male character, her male lead, who was supposed to be, you can hear the doubt in my voice, he was supposed to be a king. However, in all of his scenes that we, for lack of a better word, I call them scenes, chapters, whatever. See, Babel, your crown has changed number. You went from number 3 to number 1. Your crown changed number for me. You guys are playing like hot potato with your hats back and forth. Um, it must just be chats. It must just be chats like during streams because it changes with like each message that you guys send. Battle Royale for the number 1 crown. Go. I'm kidding. Don't do that. Don't spam the chat. But yeah, so for example, she had her male lead who's going to be the love interest. She had him. He's supposed to be a king, and his first scenes are basically. I don't want to be mean, but he's more or less acting like a child, and I mean that in the sense of he doesn't know what to do. He's acting young. The character's acting young, right? So he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's already resigned and given up for his plot point that he's talking about. What's the other? He has an advisor that's basically telling him what to do instead of coming up with ideas on his own. Like things like that. Things like it just the vibes were not giving king. They were giving like prince that's being babysat kind of vibes. But he was supposed to be the king. And he was supposed to be this really intimidating, respected figure in his community. But then she also, like in the next scene with him, shows him in a meeting where he's getting talked all over and everybody's ignoring him and nobody takes him seriously. And I'm like, well, you can't have both in storytelling. You can't have him be this super masculine, macho, tough guy, super intimidating. Everyone loves him. All the women want to sleep with him. He's super intelligent. He's a brilliant strategist. You can't have all of that. You can't have your characters say that about the king. And then when I meet the king as the reader, he's this helpless man-child who can't even like tie his own shoes and doesn't know how much money he has to spend. I'm like, it's one or the other. And she did not like that I pointed that out, for lack of a better phrase. So yeah, and I think one of the things that I said was, how did I say it? I said something along the lines of, he doesn't come across as competent, but you have your female lead falling head over heels for him immediately as soon as she meets him because he's just so competent and amazing and handsome and and everything, right? And I said, if you want your readers to to feel what the girl feels, the female lead, if you want them to understand how she feels, then you're gonna need to like back that up with him, with scenes of him actually being competent and not just a man baby. She deleted that comment. She did not like she did not like that comment from me. But it's fine. I she asked for my counsel and I gave her my thoughts. And then I just kind of politely said, based off of your I said this to her. I said, based off of your comments on my manuscript, it doesn't sound like you're a good fit for my work. But thank you very much for reading. I appreciate your time. That was all I said. And that could have been said at the very beginning and saved both of us the time instead of both of us getting stuck reading manuscripts that we both clearly did not like. Anyways. Communicate. You'll be happier for it in the long run if you just communicate. She deleted it? Yeah. She deleted my comments. That was the only one she actually deleted, though. I think she just kind of ignored the rest. But yeah, specifically, I highlighted the text. I think, oh gosh, what was the king's name? Tyrus? I think it was Tyrus. I'm not entirely sure, but anyways, I think the king's name was Tyrus. So I highlighted a scene in which, because when you're giving feedback, whether it's a fellow author or whatever, whenever you're giving feedback to someone, you don't just want to say, in theory, oh, you need to make these changes, or I didn't like this vibe that I got, because that's not helpful feedback, right? You can't just speak in these vague theoretical terms. Well, you can, but that's not the only thing you should be saying. Because you can say, like, overall, the vibe I got was X, Y, or Z. But what you should then be able to do as a good beta reader, as a good artist swap critique, whatever you want to call it, you should be able to then go through the manuscript and pinpoint certain scenes or lines of dialogue or whatever that gave you a particular feeling that you either liked or did not like. So when I was going through her work, I would highlight specific paragraphs or lines or dialogue or whatever where Tyrus was acting like a man baby. I'm assuming his name was Tyrus. Where Tyrus was acting like a man baby. And I would highlight it and say, his advisor talks over him here, and he just accepts that. That's not how a very assertive, masculine king would act. A king is used to being obeyed. And that's his advisor. His advisor would know not to, right? Like things like that. Am I crazy? Am I the one who doesn't understand how this works? Is something wrong with me? Am I the problem? But it was stuff like that, right? I would find these things and I would try to highlight them so that she could go back and she could look at those particular areas and decide if she wanted to make changes or not. It doesn't matter if she doesn't like any of my suggestions, whatever, fine. But at least I'm making them in a spot so you understand where I'm coming to my conclusion. I'm not just pulling things out of my arse and saying things to be mean. Yeah, anyways, but it didn't matter because she deleted them. Which is fine. But hey, at least she stopped reading before she got to the spicy bits. Because I think she would have imploded if she went that far. A masculine man was freaking with his masculinity that no one appreciated. Do people like such people? It was an interesting read. It's the only way I can think to. Yeah, it was something. No, like I imagined that the male lead would say that the advisor should shut his mouth. Exactly, right? Exactly. So even if they. Another example is. Okay, listen. I'm gonna break this down for you, alright? And I want you guys to tell me if I'm out of line or if I'm right. Okay? Listen. I'm going to present a scenario. Yes, this is exactly what happened in the manuscript. First 5 chapters or so, remember. So this is your first impression of all the characters involved. The context here is that Tyrus, the king... Hold on. Hold on. Alright, so the context here is that you can't. There we go. You have Tyrus, oh my gosh. You have Tyrus the king, okay? We're not even going to worry about the advisor right now, okay? We're just not even going to worry about it. There's 3 characters. You have Tyrus, the king. You have... I forget this guy's name. I think it started with an S, so we're just going to call him Sam. That was not his name. You have Sam, who is trying to become a king. He wants to lead this island kingdom that they're on, right? He is also, I think, I'm guessing because it wasn't made clear. He's a little bit older. He's older than the king. He's older than Tyrus. Again, I think, because it wasn't really made clear. And then you have... I don't remember her name. Hold on. I don't remember her name. I'm trying to give her a smiley face. Gosh, what was her name? We're just gonna call her P because she was a priestess, so I don't know. She was a priestess, okay? And here's the part that I want you to read with a critical eye or ear or whatever, because the context is that the king, who is the one that we've already discussed, is presented like a little bit like a man baby. The king leads this little island nation, and Sam is trying to overthrow the king because he wants to control the island nation. Sam is also the one who talks all over King Tyrus in the meetings, along with his advisor, with Tyrus's advisor. So Tyrus is like getting walked all over by these other men, right? Well, the priestess, just give her a halo. The priestess is described as being extremely sexually attractive, and she is trying with all her might. I pointed like directly to his legs, whatever. She's trying with all her might to sleep with the king. She wants nothing more than to sleep with King Tyrus. She is trying to get him to come sleep with her, to leave the palace, to come stay at her house, whatever, right? And Tyrus is like all over it, 100% down for it, but he's just a little bit busy, so it'll have to happen another time. But he's totally down. Absolutely adores this girl. She's super attractive. He's very affectionate, so it doesn't present itself as it's just like a king in a horror situation, right? It's nope, this is like a full-on, he's very affectionate, possibly in love with her. They're both very affectionate towards each other. They're both like stroking each other's hair and, all these other very loving mannerisms that you wouldn't necessarily, or you shouldn't, I guess. If you're writing a story, you wouldn't present necessarily a horror dynamic that way. This is very clearly a lover's situation. And then you find out that the priestess is actually the daughter of the guy who's trying to overthrow the king. At which point, I'm like, Tyrus is stupid. That's it. That's as far as my thought process goes for him. Am I the one in the wrong here? Am I crazy? Or is that also your conclusion? Because as soon as I figured that out, I'm like, he's stupid. Tyrus is stupid. That's it. That's as far as that goes. Like, how am I supposed to think that this guy who's getting walked all over by a bunch of other guys, has a guy who's actively trying to overthrow him, and is in bed with that guy's daughter, and somehow fully trusts her? I'm Tyrus, I cannot root for you. My brother in Christ. Pull yourself together. She's not that hot. Thank you, Bate. I'm glad you. Trust me. My work presentations are a joy to sit through. Am I crazy? Am I the dumb one, or would someone else read this and also be like, that's kind of stupid? Because listen, if this was trying, and I think I said this in my comment. I said, because this is my first impression of Tyrus, I immediately think he's an idiot. I don't think I said it that way, but I said something close to that. I said, because this is my first impression, and because I know nothing else about Tyrus, this gives me the impression that he's easily manipulated and that he's pretty stupid. So unless very quickly in these next few pages you provide me some sort of context that tells me he's aware of the situation that he's in and he's actually some sort of secret mastermind and he's manipulating the priestess and the guy who's trying to overthrow him, fine. If that's the case, that works. But that didn't happen. And I said, if you want me to believe in your male character, if you want me to think he's competent and that he's a strategist and that he's smart, you have to show me something different for the first impression, because otherwise I'm going to put this book down thinking he's stupid. Usually such kings get killed first. Exactly, Monte. I can't stop laughing. I am passionate about these things, okay? I'm like... That's like, Because if she being the author, if the author had done this pivot of saying, oh, he's actually like this mastermind, and he's manipulating everybody around him by appearing weak and so on, I would have been like, okay, fine. I don't like how it's been presented because it wasn't very good, but I understand that that's the angle they're trying to play, and I'm gonna roll with it. We didn't get that. We didn't get any of that. And that was the comment that she deleted of mine. The one about Tyrus, I'm like, my comment was something pretty much along the lines of like, unless you provide me context right now, I am just going to think he's an idiot, and I no longer care about him as a reader. And she was like, delete. Fine. Fine, I'm going to go back to my own romance with blackjack and hookers. It's fine. Anyways, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I don't remember most of those characters' names. All that to say, if you want to be a writer and you're nervous, don't be. Because if that stuff is getting written, anything you want to write can be written. Vontae, I'm fighting for my life over here, okay? It was just, oh my god, it was an experience. I think I took psychic damage from that manuscript. I don't know if it was the worst thing I've ever read. But it was kind of up there. And again, I don't want to be mean to this person. I mean, we all start somewhere. That's perfectly fine. I would put it on a shelf and let it be forgotten, honestly. I need drama where the male lead has a brain. Yeah, and if the king had been presented as a naive fool or a prince who's being manipulated or, whatever, right? Like if the king had been presented accurately to how he was written, like, fine, okay, yeah, that may not necessarily be the archetype or trope that I like to read about, but at least it would have been consistent and it would have made sense, and maybe there was going to be some sort of character arc about the king or the prince or whatever, kind of finding his confidence and growing into, his role and becoming a king and all that. But that wasn't how it was. It wasn't how it was written. And that was the problem. Um, but that's just my opinion. The way she was rude to you was really uncalled for, so don't feel bad reacting this way. Yeah, I mean, part of me would have been more upset if like I had opened her manuscript and it was the best thing I'd ever read. I'd be like, oh dang, this person really knows what they're talking about. I guess my writing really does suck. But that wasn't what happened. I opened her manuscript and like I said, I took psychic damage. And I was like, oh god. So, again, there's nothing wrong with being a beginner. Having some awareness, though, in terms of not reading work that you just clearly don't like, that isn't your flavor, it's like, that has nothing to do with your ability as a writer. That's just like being a decent person. But anyways, it's over now. We politely parted ways. I don't hold grudges. I genuinely don't understand where so much hate for Angelique and Ephraim came from. They're not that insufferable. Ephraim has been a sweetie so far. She really didn't like that Ephraim wasn't fighting back, for lack of a better term, right? So she left a lot of her comments that she left were like, well, why wouldn't Ephraim get mad here and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, because I just wanted to like reach out and like hold her shoulders, shake her, and say, because the whole point is about how Angelique is abusing her authority over him. And how if he does something wrong that she doesn't like, she could really, really ruin his life. Because I like dynamics like that, where people are put in really difficult situations. And it's just about the spice here. Just calm down. Anyways. But, like, that's not a dynamic that you like, right? Like, if you don't want to read an enemies to lovers story or, you know, a toxic relation. Literally, one of the labels I have on this is toxic relationship because Angelique is abusing her authority and Ephraim learns that he has to play the game in order to look out for himself. And that's a very toxic dynamic to have. So that's the whole point. It's the point of the book. The label is on the box. The label is on the tin. Anyways. It's fine. It's fine if you don't like something. Just don't read it. Oh my gosh. I couldn't get over her comment of how, like, quote unquote, bitchy female characters are so overdone. And I'm like, well then start reading books that don't have bitchy female leads. Like, that's a whole... There's tons of, like, what I think they're called sweet romances, right? Where the characters are just nice. It's like, there's a ton of those. Just go read those. Why are you reading the same thing over and over again that you don't like? She'd hate the seal part. She sure would. Oh boy. She really, really would. Part of me wishes she had kept reading so that I could just see her ridiculous reactions. At the same time, I don't think I would ever grant her access to reading more of my work. Well, reading more of it in a beta context. Obviously, if she decides that she wants to buy the book in the future, I can't really stop her, but I don't think that's going to happen. The other thing that I did is that I actually had like the decency to go back and respond to her comments on my manuscript, which is more the done thing. Like, I went through and places where she had said, this doesn't make sense, or I don't like this, etc. Like, she had one comment where she wanted she had one comment where she wanted me to completely change the wording of a sentence or a line of dialogue or whatever it was. She wanted me to completely change it, and the change that she recommended would have completely changed like that character. And I'm like, no. What do you like? What? Anyways, it was stuff like that. It was a real doozy. But yeah, she also, one of her comments said something along the lines of, this particular comment, like whatever she was saying, she's like, well, this particular comment isn't necessary to change. And I'm like, staring down at her, bold of you to assume that any of your comments are necessary. Get out of here. Anyways, but yeah, it was an adventure. But it was a good reading exercise and editing exercise for me. So I will choose to take that as a win and move on. James, welcome in. What you're discussing right now? I was regaling everyone with a story about my most recent beta reader who was not a good fit, is what I will say. I frequently, when I'm looking for beta readers, I will post in a couple of the various author groups that I'm in, writing groups that I'm in, and I'll offer a manuscript swap, which is where you and one other author will swap your manuscripts, and then you will both beta read for each other and provide feedback and so on. And usually that's a pretty good way to kind of meet different people and get some different feedback for your work and so on and so forth. So I did that with this particular individual, and let's just say she was not a good fit. She was not a good fit, and that's all right. That's totally fine. I just really would have preferred if you don't like something, not because it's bad necessarily, but if you don't like chocolate chip cookies, do not go out and buy the ingredients for chocolate chip cookies, make the cookies, eat them, and then say, I hate chocolate chip cookies. That's the best way. I've been ranting about this for like 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, however long it's been. Time isn't real. But yeah, it was just an adventure of a beta reader reading something that they clearly didn't like, but instead of just saying, hey, this isn't a good fit for me, this isn't relevant to my reading interests, so I'm going to put it down and I'm not going to finish reading it. Fine, no big deal. I've had plenty of readers do that for one reason or another. Totally fine with that. That's very normal. I have said the same to other authors before after I've been given their manuscripts. It's not a big deal. But this person, instead of doing what I would believe to be the polite thing, she just went through and was like, I hate this, this sucks, here's all the reasons why it's bad, and here's all my personal reasons why I don't like this. And when I say this in that last comment, she was talking about like certain tropes or character archetypes or things like that that were present in the work, where I had given her very blatant disclaimers of like, here's what the content of the book is, here's what the book is about. If you're not interested in this, you probably aren't a good fit. And she was like, okay, and then read it anyways, and then surprise, surprise, didn't like it. Anyways, it's kind of inevitable that you run into beta readers like that when you're writing, but it was definitely annoying. Definitely a frustrating experience. Oh, I have to do the chainmail. Oh, I hate doing chainmail. This particular song sounds very Skyrim-esque, but I don't think it is, because I think it's, was it copyright free? What song is this? Discovering New Lands by Kyle Preston. Interesting. Has a very Skyrim kind of vibe to it. Sarah, welcome in. How are you today? You need a chain. Oh my gosh, my voice. I'm sorry. Hold on. I need a chainmail brush. Yes, I need lots of different brushes, and ultimately, what I really need is to use a different drawing program, because there aren't as many brushes available for Psy. I've considered swapping to Psy 2. I technically own CSP, but I really don't enjoy using it. I find it really, really uncomfortable. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. Because, yeah, I really need to, especially if I'm going to be drawing things faster, right? Like if I'm going to be making videos for YouTube, I need to be able to speed up my workflow a lot. So I'm actually thinking mostly about getting Procreate and getting an iPad and using Procreate. But we'll see. That's still a little ways off because I need to purchase stuff for my new place. So, all right. Go. Have you listened to the songs I sent you? Do you like them? I did. Another friend of mine actually sent me a couple of other Ghost songs recently. I really enjoyed it. It's not something that I normally listen to, so it's always nice to get some music recommendations. Gosh, you're barely gonna be able to see it. It's alright. It's a teeny, teeny, tiny bit. iPad, no way. Are you willing to abandon the Android community? I suppose it's better on the Apple side. I only am interested in the iPad because of Procreate. Um, because I think I mentioned it to you actually, because oh my God, my poor little laptop is on life support. Um, I literally have an itty bitty Chromebook from like 2011 that I got back when I think I got it when I was high school or college, whatever it was. Uh, Specifically for using like in college classes and so on and so forth, taking notes. And it can barely, barely handle opening a document. Uh, and it's basically my only travel machine, right? So like if I'm traveling, that's the machine that I take. I don't have a different laptop or anything else. And so I'm thinking if I'm going to get a new travel machine to replace that, I'd like to get a tablet of some kind and basically have something that I can type on and I can take notes on, but also that I can draw on. But that's far off. You're sketching as well? Awesome. If you feel like sharing your sketches after, I'd love to see them in the Discord. There's no pressure though. I guess you can't really see the chainmail on this arm. It's fine. I don't feel like doing it. Okay, let's see. So you can see the chainmail around his legs. We can see it the little crook of his elbow and his neck. I think that's everywhere you'd be able to see it. Okay, so let's go ahead. It should be just the chainmail. It is. Oh, you use Procreate. Awesome. Yeah, I've got a couple of friends that use Procreate. One of them primarily uses Photoshop. A couple use Procreate. I don't think any of my, well, I don't know. Babel, did you start using Psy? I want to say that you tried Psy, but I don't know if you stuck with it or if you selected a different program. Um, but yeah, I don't really know if anyone else that I know of regularly uses Psy. I have a couple friends that have it, and they might do like base sketches on Psy, but then usually they'll port it over to like CSP and stuff for rendering, which I tried to do initially, but I don't know, something about CSP just doesn't click with my brain. I really wish it did, because I hear nothing but good about CSP. Yeah, it would be wise to upgrade that little old guy. I know, the poor little thing. I think I told you, you have a two-in-one laptop. It has a touchscreen and a stylus pen. Interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking something like that. I know that some tablets you can get like, what is it called? Like a case that has a keyboard in it. There's no doubt Apple products are more powerful. I am an Apple hater. um, I don't like Apple. The only reason I consider it at all is for Procreate. But even then, it's a begrudging. They'll have to pry my money out of my very, very tight fingers. I'm an Android kid through and through. But we'll see. Um, Man, all the tech shenanigans going on lately are sucky. I have to either buy a new machine or figure out a way to do a hardware um, like bypass. I'm not really sure like what the proper word is. But basically, Windows 11 says that it can't upgrade my PC um, to the new OS. I don't want to upgrade to 11. I like 10, and I don't want to be on 11. I don't like not Amazon. I don't like Microsoft shoving AI and advertisements into my OS that I pay for on my personal machine. I don't like that. And I don't like their stalking every single thing that you do on your machine at all times. Like, how am I supposed to comfortably keep my copyrighted work on my machine knowing that Microsoft is scanning literally everything I do at all times? No, thank you. How am I supposed to, like, access my banking info? Yeah, the enshittification of technology really, really grates on me, but we'll see what happens. I've considered moving over to Linux for my next machine, but that requires a really substantial investment of time that I'm not sure I have. If I want to, because I'm behind as is, I'm behind on everything creative that I want to be working on, because my day job is so demanding right now. And I'm like, do I really want to force myself to invest a bunch of time into setting up a Linux system and maintaining that Linux system? But I don't know, I hate Microsoft so much that I might do it. We'll see. Let's just say me and learning new programs don't go well together. Yeah, where are all your beautiful landscapes that you told me you'd be painting? Everybody shame Babel. Shame her into working on her art. She hasn't touched that pretty. She got this beautiful tablet, and she's not even using it. She got one of those fancy tablets with a screen and everything. Anyways. A tablet with a keyboard is a good option, but they can also be... Yeah, that's the thing, is... I mean, I can afford it, right? Like, I can budget for it, but I mean, I'd much rather spend that money on something else. So, yeah, it's just... Once I decide what I'm gonna get, I'll just go for it, but I don't know. I'm not even really at the researching stage yet. I've also, the other thing is that I want to make sure that I can stream from it, and I've seen other artists stream from Procreate, so I believe that is possible. Don't you dare! Babel, save, I won't shame you. I can't believe I'm being ganged up on in my own chat. Let's see. Maybe I can do some spooky, smoky stuff. That could be fun. Let's see. Because he's gonna have. Oh, I probably have to have this forward because this hand is forward. Hold on. I don't know. Do I want it to be? We'll see. It's just a gloopy little blob. Because what I'd like to kind of insinuate, I was gonna have like some little bits like woo, kind of like floating around it. Um, did any of you watch Treasure Planet? Because I'm just all I can think kind of looking at it, which is not the goal, but all I can think is like it's Morph. It's Morph from Treasure Planet. It's definitely not Morph from Treasure Planet, but like it's Morph from Treasure Planet. You'll be forced to install Windows 11. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't want to. I already have it installed on my work machine. They already upgraded us. I'm not a fan. Don't like it. But we'll see. A lot of things. Well, actually, that's a lie. A lot of things that I use might have Linux versions. I know that the video editing software I use for YouTube does have a Linux version. Cute blob will eat. Please don't eat it. I love Treasure Planet. It looks like Morph. Here, let's see. It's definitely not Morph. Especially if you read, if you end up reading Black Knight, it's definitely not Morph. There. He can hang out for a little bit. So I just wanted hugs from Angelique. Yeah, just hugs. Just hugs. And to play harmless little pranks. See, I have two styles of drawing smoke, and I'm not really sure which I'm gonna do yet. I'll start with the extra squiggly boys, but we'll see if I change it later. I might. We'll see. Because what I'd also like to do, I think the squiggly boys are gonna work better for what I want. Because basically what I'd like to do is the smoke, quote unquote smoke slash, I think literally in the manuscript, I just call it black. It doesn't have a name. It's just stuff. It's something. It's goop. But what I would like to do is basically once I kind of render it in a little bit more, there's going to be like lines and stuff kind of through it, like goopy bits, like so. So I think the squiggly style of smoke is going to work better for this, and that'll be more rendered in, so it won't feel quite as messy. But that's the general idea of what I'd like to do. We'll see. Don't smoke, kids. This will happen to you. Black Knight and his anti-smoking campaign. See, what has Angelique got against this man? He's out there doing doing good for the community. Throw this away. Hold on. Nope, that's my chapstick. We don't want to throw that away. There we go. I decided to go the other way around. No kids, no more childhood smoking. Problem solved. We might question his methodology just a little bit. I'm debating if the cracker on the whip is gonna be I haven't entirely decided. I'm not sure if it's gonna be like little thorny vine thingies or if it's gonna be just kind of watery and disappearing. I think I'll share some of my artwork. I'll post it on the Discord later. Yeah, we'll be excited to see it. Definitely. I probably have, let's see, like maybe another 10 or so minutes. And then I'm going to be wrapping it up because I have housekeeping to do today since I've been away all weekend. I need to get ready for the work week. Alright. Let's go ahead and... Trauma. You've missed some juicy drama. Oh, Sarah, you you missed my regaling chat with the very interesting beta reader situation that I recently had, where to briefly summarize, a beta reader was not a good fit for my work, and rather than doing the polite thing and simply telling me that, hey, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to read. However, this really isn't relevant to my interests, so I'm not going to continue reading. Which would be the polite thing to do if you are a beta reader and someone gives you a manuscript that just isn't to your liking. Not necessarily because it's bad, and there's that too. Like, you could just get a manuscript that's outright bad. That's a possibility. But when you don't like the basic premise of the manuscript, which was the case in my situation, I explicitly told them, I'm like, hey, I've got a really, really bratty female lead, and it's a very toxic relationship, and it's an enemies to lovers romance. And they basically went in reading, and they're like, there's no romance, and the main character, female lead, is really unpleasant, and she's not likable, and she's really bitchy, and there's no romance. Just like, yeah, yeah, that was the label on the box, and you decided to read anyways. I went into more detail, but that's the general idea of it, which is just inevitable. Sometimes you get people who, I don't know, I can't even say that it's because people fear confrontation, right? Like, it's not because she didn't want to confront me by telling me that, like, oh, I don't like the manuscript, because she confronted me by telling me how awful it was. So it wasn't like she was scared of confronting me, because she confronted me very bluntly that she did not like it. So I don't know. I don't really know what the big brain move there was. Maybe she was pulling a Tyrus on me. If you were here for the earlier discussion, you'll get that reference. Anyway. But yes, it just boils down to, I thought she was rude. That's that's mostly it. It's perfectly fine if people don't like my writing. There's no law that says you have to like my writing. But if you're going to be a beta reader, at least have some manners, you know? At least be honest when something just isn't for you. Don't waste my time. She threw him at you and ran. She did, because she knew I wasn't gonna have a good reaction to that. Oh man, it was a good reading exercise. That's the phrase that I will use. It was a good reading exercise. That's the only way I can see myself having taken any value from that whole kerfuffle. As I try to find more beta readers, because generally you do typically want to have a mix of opinions. You want to have, I mean, I think I had 6 total for Immolation, and obviously Immolation is a more dense story, um, but still, I would like to get more opinions. So inevitably, as I reach out to more authors in my writing group. Oh, that's the fun part. She's still in the writing group, so I'm still gonna have to interface with her. Anyways, as I reach out for more beta readers to have them go through the manuscript as well, it's inevitable that I'll find someone else who also does not like it for whatever reason. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. Cyril is a red flag. Fortunately, I'm colorblind. I thought I had... There it is, okay. I guess I have that on more than one layer. Where is it? There it is. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just hide all that for now. Sarah, that's the best comment. So can I eat your art now, or are we still cooking? Puts your art between two slices of bread and chops. Thank you very much. Hello, Malin. Welcome in. I'm glad you like it. I need... I'm still torn, but... Because normally I make smoke lighter, obviously. But the whole point is that this is very, very black. So let's give this a try. Ignore the little face, by the way, if you're just coming in. Yeah, that's because I mentioned I was like, oh, it looks like more from Treasure Planet. That little face is not canonical. That is not lore accurate. It's just because I thought it was cute. I'm eating the little bean in his hand. It's lore accurate and below it. Gotcha. Oh no. Some people consider your level of art witchcraft. I mean, God, I wish. Your art is giving me all the priestly issues I never had. I like this one little spot that I've got kind of here in the smoke. It looks like a little heart, and I just think that's really cute, so I want to try and keep it. Because that's something he would do. He'd use his goop to make a little heart. He'd think himself very clever. I guess the neighbor was in your car up. Each little compliment that I ever get is precious, and I stuck it into like a little pocket. Stuff it into my pocket, put it on my fridge. It goes into a jar. I keep them all. Probably gonna have to do a different little bit over here. I'm probably gonna have to do more layers so I can have, like, this is like the smoke that's kind of like behind him, and I'm gonna need to do like a future layer that's kind of like, oops, it'd be fun to have some kind of like coming out from his neck and kind of like coming. I'd like to have this, not really a vortex, that's not quite the right word, but I'd like to kind of have it look like this is all kind of swirling here, and all the swirls made our little friend. So, and this will be more goopy. This will be the wettest part. That's a very cursed way to describe it, but it's accurate. Well, I guess this and the whip, because the whip would need to be like goopy. You either get to be smoky or goopy, but you cannot be both. Well, you can't be both, but Preminger. Preminger. I'm the only one who gets Preminger vibes from Cyril. That sounds so familiar, and hold on, I have to Google it. That sounds familiar, but I cannot remember that character. I remember the character was called Master Preminger. Is it the guy from the Barbie movie? That was the one Barbie movie my sister was obsessed with. It is the guy from the Barbie movies. That's hilarious. Yeah, no, Cyril might be a drama king, but he's not. He's probably not quite a primager. That was the one Barbie movie. My sister was absolutely obsessed with this, and I remember my sister got it as a birthday gift on DVD, and she would keep asking my dad to play it over and over and over again until like any parent who is having to listen to their kid's movie over and over and over again, he's like going insane. I think finally he just said, "Nope, sorry, the DVD player is broken. We need to buy a new one. You can't watch you can't watch the what is that one? Uh Whatever the Barbie movie." Yeah, no, my sister was obsessed with that movie. I remember that one. Anyways, um, okay, yeah. So, and obviously he's not actually holding the whip. I have to like fix his hand because right now he's just making a fist, but he's gonna be holding onto the whip. And I'm still not sure about the cracker of the whip being thorns. I guess the whole whip technically could be thorns, but usually it's just the cracker. It's just the tip. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I want to make it all thorns or not. Because he generally doesn't. He can put thorns on things that he makes out of goop. He can do that if he so chooses. He doesn't necessarily choose that often. Barbie is Princess and the Pauper. That's what it was. I just remember it being there was Barbie, like the blonde one with the pink dress, and I don't remember the other one's name. And the other girl who had the blue dress. That's what I remember. That's mostly what I remember of it. I would like to. Oops. Get rid of that. This will all be cleaned up later, but for now, just to make it more obvious, this is actually a belt and not just a blob. He has so many blobs already, he doesn't need more. You can pretend that this is a sword belt, even though he doesn't carry a sword. He summons a sword if he wants one. And cats. They carried the whole plot in their paws. I remember, doesn't the blue girl, who I believe is the pauper, because I think Barbie's the princess, I think, doesn't the girl who wears the blue, doesn't her dog bark instead of meow? I remember that. I can't remember his name, but I want to say that, like, I think there's like a whole song about how, like, she likes him better because he barks instead of meows. And then I keep debating if I'm gonna do this. Probably not going to. Because basically, you can't really tell from the way that I've sketched it, but... So this whole piece here, like kind of all of this, that's all the visor, actually probably includes, yeah, includes this. So basically all of this is the visor for the helmet, so this part can kind of like go up and down. So we can like tilt it to open it. And I was debating, because in the manuscript I do say you can look at him and you can see that his helmet has a visor, and by visor I don't mean this piece. By visor I mean there is a space for his eyes to look through. Obviously, it's a helmet. And so I keep debating if I'm going, because it would be like some sort of design kind of vaguely like this, right? Kind of like in the lines of the visor and kind of the engraving, there's little eye holes so that he can see out. And I'm just debating if I'm going to, where is it? Come on. There we go. I'm just debating if I'm going to put like a little, probably like some kind of little glow so that you can tell that he's in there, that there's a man in there. But I don't know, because no one here has really read it yet, so except Monte, but Monte's only read a little bit. If you're relatively close to him and you look at him through his visor, you can't really see anything. So I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it. Maybe I won't. But I am gonna call it for the day, because I have to go do unfun chores, and I have a dish full of dirty dish. Oh my gosh, I have a sink full of dirty dishes. I'm a writer. I can talk. I have a sink full of dirty dishes that I really need to clean, and I have to vacuum, and I still have to go grocery shopping, so on and so forth. But thank you very much for joining. It was wonderful to chat, as always. I hope you enjoyed seeing me work a little bit on this Dastardly Fellow from Black Knight Shining, which hopefully, fingers crossed, releases soon? Question mark? Not entirely sure. But yes, thank you guys very much for coming by. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you probably in 2 weeks. I try to stream every other Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. However, with that said, next weekend is my birthday. So I am considering doing another stream for my birthday, and just kind of hanging out with everyone and having a good time. Don't know if I'm going to have time for it. We will see. Obviously, my family and I are going to be celebrating, but we'll see. Maybe I will keep you guys updated. I'll try to post something in the Discord if I do decide to do something for my birthday next weekend. But maybe. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I think it'd be fun. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for all of your support. It really does mean the world to me. And I will see you guys soon.